you, and yes, it is easier to fly an F-16 than it is to parent children. So, okay. I am really excited to be here today to talk to you guys about dreams. Not the sleeping kind, but the kind that keep you up at night with the desire and exhilaration and sometimes the fear that they might not come true. I want to illustrate to you that dreams have power to make you form goals that can change your life and do more than you ever thought was possible. Powerful dreams and goals can be realized with enough determination and dedication. I was asked to come and speak about dreams and how they help you overcome obstacles. And I can only assume that the obstacle that was about me is my gender. But I can assure you that I've had plenty of obstacles in my life, and one of them is not that I'm a woman. I hope that what I have to say to you today will motivate you to create your own goals no matter what you do or what people think your obstacles might be. I was born in a small town in Wisconsin, and I lived on a farm until my parents divorced. I had an amazing example of military service within my family. My grandmother on my mother's side was a veteran of World War II. She served in the military stateside. And my grandfather on my dad's side served in the Coast Guard in the Mediterranean during World War II. My father, in this picture here with me around 10 years old, was a Vietnam helicopter pilot. And I remember my wonderment at an early age about their service. They voluntarily left home, everything that they had that was comfortable to them, to go into a scary, uncertain place that they might never come home from. I didn't initially understand why anybody would do that. And as I grew up, I learned what it is to be an American. I was instilled with a strong sense of patriotism, and I knew that I wanted to serve in the military. I knew I wanted to serve and give to our country the same way my family had in order to protect their freedoms and the freedom of our nation. And eventually this young girl did earn her wings. I remember a discussion at an elementary grade school class with the teacher, and she asked us if we ever had traveled. And I remember going around the room, and most kids had never been anywhere outside of Wisconsin, which is really weird because we live like 15 miles away from Minnesota. So I thought I was pretty cool, you know. And I love my hometown, but I did grow up with a dream of going somewhere more exotic than Minnesota. So how does a girl from Wisconsin end up at the controls of a multi-million-dollar F-16? It was simple. Note, I didn't say it was easy, but it was simple. I followed my dreams with every ounce of determination that I had within me, and I still have a little bit today. My dreams were realized and solidified all in one day at a show in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. The United States Air Force Air Demonstration Squadron, the Thunderbirds, were there for a show. My parents had divorced and remarried by this time, and my dad had us for the weekend. Me and my two younger sisters, and he took us to the air show, and that was it. It was amazing. I was enthralled, I was lifted, I was mesmerized, I was completely and utterly enraptured by wanting to join the Air Force and become a fighter pilot. I started studying everything I could about the Air Force Academy. I read books, I begged my parents to go see the campus on a van trip that we took out west. I saved my money to buy a ticket so I could go to swim camp in Colorado Springs so that I could sleep in the dorms and swim in the pool and sleep in the same beds and eat in the mess hall and walk around the campus and learn from cadets themselves what it takes to get in and what it takes to succeed. I put all my energy into getting good grades and working hard and swimming and track so that when the time came to apply that I would be competitive for it. But at the time that I made this decision to become a fighter pilot, women were not allowed to fly in combat aircraft. But I didn't let it discourage me. I knew that I was going to do everything that I could so that I could be competitive when the time came that I would have the opportunity. So it's important to follow your goals, even when there are people around you who don't believe that you can accomplish them. During the beginning of my senior year in high school, we had to write a paper for an English class. And yeah, all right. And it was all about what we wanted to do with our lives. We had to research colleges and careers and interview people who had the same careers and ideas that we had for our life. And I wrote, of course, about the academy and flying F-16s. And back in 1993, you didn't have computers in your homes. So if you guys older types remember, we had pencils and paper, and we would write out the paper, and then you would double space it so that it could be made into a final draft. So I was sitting in front of the television with the news on, and I was writing out my final draft, and I had not known that in April of 1993 they had lifted the combat exclusion for women in fighter cockpits. So this was my first moment that I realized my dreams could be realized, as I was writing this paper about what I was going to do, there was a news flash of a bunch of women that had been selected to fly fighter aircraft, and it was the greatest day. And I wrote that paper, and I turned it into my teacher, and I was so excited, and I got it back, and I looked at my paper, and I got an F. And I was generally an A student. I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree, but I usually did very well, and I worked really hard. And I went in to talk to my teacher, and what really I think the issue was is that she couldn't envision a world where women could be fighter pilots or wanted to be fighter pilots, but she saw my dream and my desire and my determination, and she changed my grade to a D. So that was her problem, not mine. So don't let people put obstacles in front of you. Listen to your dreams and follow them. So the hard work and the dedication paid off, and I was accepted into one of the great engineering schools in the United States, the Air Force Academy. And that was my next obstacle. I'm not very good at math. The heavily weighted science and math curriculum took its toll on my GPA, but I eventually found my place there, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in English. While I was there, it was confirmed to me that aviation was the thing for me. I flew gliders as an instructor. I learned all about the basics of flying aircraft, all despite my fear of heights, my next obstacle. Now, you would think that a fear of heights is something that would eliminate you from a career in aviation, but I actually know quite a few pilots. It's pretty common for us to be afraid of heights. So don't let your own obstacles get in the way of your own dreams. All right. So I knew from early on that being a woman in military aviation wasn't an obstacle because of the service of the WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots. They served during World War II. 25,000 women applied to be WASP, 1,800 were selected, and only 1,074 earned their silver wings. But these women went out and towed banners for gunnery practice. They instructed aviation cadets. They ferried all the aircraft from the small Agile fighters up to the big bombers. And before they went solo during their training, they would go to this wishing well in Sweetwater, Texas, at Avenger Field and throw in a penny for good luck. So I took a small detour on my way to Del Rio, Texas for pilot training from Colorado Springs and threw in my own penny, and I dared to dream. And my dreams came true when I graduated from pilot training with a fighter pilot slot. After graduation and a tour in Del Rio, Texas, my husband and I, who I married the day that we graduated from the Air Force Academy, got to go many places, even more exciting than Minnesota. After an instructor tour in Texas, I went to Moody Air Force Base in Georgia for an Introduction to Fighter Fundamentals course. I went to Luke Air Force Base near Phoenix, Arizona to learn how to fly the F-16. I was assigned to fly F-16s at Kunsan Air Base in the Republic of Korea and then to Hill Air Force Base, Utah. And being a Thunderbird is a wonderful experience that I'll talk to you about here in a second, but the most rewarding time of my Air Force career will always be my time flying over Iraq. I flew over 200 combat hours, over 50 missions, and you guys probably did the math quicker than me, but these missions were approximately 4 hours long, and they took place mostly at night with night vision goggles. I flew watch over convoys, transporting goods, and people across Iraq. I searched roadsides for improvised explosive devices. I stood watch over special operations missions from the air. And there's no greater job satisfaction than a soldier on the ground who trusts you with their life and requests you to be there with them when they know they're going to be in a dangerous situation. And my goals and dreams had taken me exactly where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. When it came time to come home, when I came home from Iraq, I decided to leave active duty and continue my service in the Air Force Reserve. My husband and I moved to Shepherd Air Force Base. He began work with a major airline, and I gave birth to our son. And I love my time at Shepherd, but a magazine article about a reserve pilot who was flying with the Thunderbirds sparked a new dream. Reserve officers previously were not members of the team, but the Air Force had integrated with the active duty guard and reserve all throughout, and the Thunderbirds was no exception. I applied, and I'm honored to serve as the fourth woman to fly for the team, the third in the demonstration, and the first female reserve officer. But really being a female pilot is old hat when you consider that we've been flying in combat aviation for nearly 20 years. But the thing that I am proud to represent is being the first mom to fly for the team. But I can't take credit for this because it's truly my husband's accomplishment. Just in the same way that American families share the service of their husbands and wives, I'm truly honored to represent that service and dedication to Americans across the country. And now I would love to take you guys along to a training ride with me. This was a couple days ago. We have a videographer in my back seat, and this is what it looks like. So now I have the privilege and the task of being part of an amazing 120-person organization that travels the United States and often the world over 200 days a year, representing nearly 700,000 men and women who serve in the Air Force and 40,000 of those whom are serving under combatant commanders as we speak. I only have 18 minutes. I'm just kidding. It is our job to recruit, retain, and represent. We hope to inspire the next generation of airmen for today's all-volunteer force. We do this by displaying a representation of the pride, precision, and professionalism found throughout today's Air Force with a jet demonstration that takes place with aircraft flying as close as 18 inches apart from one another. My dreams have been realized and exceeded, and now it's time to make the next one. All right. I believe that the dreams of the WASP were realized as I flew in the cockpit of a Stearman trainer used at Avenger Field for their training 70 years before me. I know that they envisioned an Air Force where women had a place. I have them to thank that I can be a fighter pilot and not a female fighter pilot. So I leave you with this. Don't be afraid to dream. Don't limit yourselves because of your gender, your perceived abilities, your fear of heights or roller coasters, and I'm afraid of those too. Realize your dreams, work your hardest, be focused, determined, dedicated, and you can do anything. Don't be afraid to fail because it will happen. Don't lose sight of your dreams through second guessing, low self-esteem, or overconfidence. I challenge you to dream so big that you can see beyond the obstacles, and dream so big that you can't even see the obstacles. Thank you.